Did you know that suffering of any kind can have a profound positive impact and benefit in our life? But you have to know how to use it. Rabbi Abe here from rabbiabe.com. Welcome to the channel. Please give the video a thumbs up if you like it and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Before we get into the video, some people have been asking me, why do you look so bushy-haired? I mean, why is your beard so full, more than usual? So some of us who follow the teachings of Kabbalah and so on, there's a certain time of the year that we refrain from shaving, not to awaken the energy of judgment. I won't go into it now, but in about a week and a half, you'll see me this very well trimmed and hair cut, so I'll be a little bit more neat. So, this week's portion is the portion of numbers. And numbers is very interesting because it doesn't really mean numbers, not in English. The book is called Bamidbar, which means in the desert. And Kabbalistically, this means it's the time of confusion and, because everything in the physical realm, we're in the desert. What's the desert? Desert is a place of, desolation, no food, no water, confusion, scorpions, and so on. In other words, it's a place of chaotic circumstance. Now, chaotic circumstance has a way of generally causing us chaos. When things are chaotic, generally we also fall into that and we get chaotic. We feel chaotic in whichever way. Chaos causes lack. Chaos causes lack to be awakened in our life. In most cases, when we respond to it in that way. So what I would like to explain in this video is how to use the lack that is caused by suffering. Because again, chaos can be anything. Chaos can be anything. Let's go for a minute to the Bible story and what kind of awakened this idea for me to bring this teaching to us. So the Bible portion this week discusses the different tribes and the counting of the different tribes, 12 tribes of Israel, and their ascension from Egypt, and their lineage. Each one is being mentioned with their lineage and so on, and the number that came out of Egypt. Now, each one had a very specific number, and the interesting point here that the Nachmanides, who was a great Kabbalist, he lived a long time ago, asks a question. Why the Levite? The tribe of the Levites were pretty much the lowest number, 22,000. So 22,000 was the number of the Levites and virtually lower than all of the other tribes. Why? Well, reason that's given is because they did not go through Egypt. They did not go through the torture. In other words, the painful torture of Egypt, of slavery. Now, we probably don't understand the slavery of Egypt. There are many forms of slavery. There's mental slavery, physical slavery, both. And slavery of any type is not only oppressive, it's a pain, it's a suffering, especially if it comes with torture, especially if it comes with, again, whether that be mental torture, physical torture. Sometimes mental torture might be worse. Depends. So this Egypt was a long time. This was over 200 years of Egypt and the pain and slavery of Egypt. The Levites did not experience that. So how does that explain their low number? Right? So here's the way the Kabbalists explain. Since the other tribes who were part of the pain, part of the suffering of Egypt, went through all that pain, and of course elimination, because they were, there were people dying and so on. So because people were dying, there was great interest for those in those tribes who were experiencing that to make sure to keep the lineage going, to keep things flowing. And so that's what they did. And their numbers increased exponentially. But since the Levites didn't have that pain, they didn't undergo that suffering, they didn't undergo that lack, they were more complacent and their numbers stayed, whatever, more constant. They were not affected by what everyone else was affected by. Now, that's a huge insight, but let's bring it down to what does it really mean for us practically? Because of course the Bible has nothing to do with what happened 3,400 years ago. It has to do with us right now. What does it have to do with us? Well, slavery, everyone has a different take on slavery. We are all slaves, whatever it is that we're slaves to. But when we are aware of pain or suffering that we're going through as a result of whatever, if it's mental pain, emotional pain, or even physical pain, God forbid, how should we be going through it, and how can we get the benefit of that pain? Why are we going through it? And this is, of course, going to be most people's question. Why me? Why do I have to go through this? Why do I need this? So I know if I told you, well, it's to give you more, I know that's a difficult pill to swallow. But let's examine it for a minute. The story of the Levites who did not suffer, didn't undergo pain. What happens when you take things away from someone who really wants them? You take away what's dear to me. You take away what I really need. Well, most people, I don't know if it's most, but many people will now rise to the occasion and work like hell to retrieve it, work like hell to get it back, or to do more, to do better. In other words, creating a lack creates more desire. Or so it should. Or so it was meant to. Create more desire to create a higher level of light or sustenance or health or whatever. Why? Because when we are complacent, and this is a huge, huge lesson, when we are complacent or feeling complacent, or our needs are being met by my mother, by my father, by whoever, my needs are being met, then I don't have that push, I don't have that drive, I don't have that, if I don't undergo the lack, then why should I do anything to push forward, to go for greater? And that is the lesson that the Levites are teaching us. Then if we don't have any suffering, if we have no suffering, if we don't go through difficulty, if I don't know how to manufacture, but the Kabbalist knew how to manufacture his own feelings of lack, not suffering, not suffering, not to create suffering, but feelings of lack, I'll tell you how, then there's no reason, because if I'm okay, if everything's good, why should I push forward? So again, and we've spoken about this before, this pain, this suffering is a way to take part of my comfort, or a lot of my comfort, for whatever the reason is. But the reason is always to give me more. Now, what must I not do? Well, first step is I need to ask why. But there's two ways to ask why. Why me? How could you do this to me? I'm a good person, whoever we're talking to, God or whoever. In other words, the blaming me is the wrong way to go. Wrong way to go. Because if you blame, if you play the victim, not only you won't get anything out of this situation, it might even get worse. Okay? It might even get worse. So, never play the victim. Rule number one, never play the victim. Rule number two, look at this pain, this challenge, whatever it is. The initial reaction to it must be, this is my time to shine. This is an amazing opportunity for me. As painful as it might be, this is an amazing opportunity for me to get to a higher level. If we respond this way, we open the door. We open the spiritual door. We open the consciousness door. We open the mental door. We open a sustenance door. We open the door to more spiritual energy to flow for the situation to get better, to be led to the right answers. You know, again, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything changes and gets better because I had the right attitude. No. But when I have the right attitude, which is, this is an amazing opportunity to take me higher. In Kabbalah, it's called to get me to the fourth level. The fourth level is the place where my vessel is empty. My vessel is empty. Amazing. Why? Because an empty vessel is the greatest receiver. That's the secret. An empty vessel is the greatest receiver. When I feel empty, I can change. I can move. I can do everything that I need to do when I feel empty. Now, this goes for so many different things. Abusive relationships. You know, don't you wonder sometimes, or an abusive relationship needs to go for a while until one of the abusee, the one who's being abused, says, enough. I'm at the bottom. Enough. I've had enough. Now I'm going to change it. It's amazing. When you get to the bottom, every addiction program will tell you what? They need to get to the bottom. What's so significant about this bottom? Significant. What is it about the bottom that enables us to change? Again, Kabbalah calls it the fourth phase. The fourth phase of consciousness, of desire, where now I will do what it takes. Now I awaken, my real desire awakens, rises up. Of course, that depends on rule number 3. I cannot, never, ever play the victim. I can never play the victim. Say, oh, God hates me, or everything is against me, or this is what it is, and I accept defeat. Never accept the defeat. Never. Never accept failure. There is no failure until you think you failed. Never failure. Always a step closer. That's what all the positive thinking people say, right? But it's true. Why? Because we don't fail because anyone or anything is ever against us. No. We only fail when we stop trying, when we stop making the effort. That's the only time we fail. The opposite. When we have the most empty vessel, when we feel the most lack, it is the time where we can shine the brightest. Very important. And this is when everything can flip, everything can change for us. I need to put in the effort, and I need to put in the consciousness. I need to keep my certainty that this is for me. It's done for me. It's not done to me. Never. Never is anything done to me. Not from the universe, not from people. Even if people think they're doing stuff to us, the universe is only using them as vehicles to help us, albeit in a way that we may not recognize. That's called the back side of God, or the backside. We don't recognize this is a huge help, but when it's straight on, we recognize it. When it's the back, we don't recognize, maybe, right? Doesn't change it. The back actually has more ability to help, which I won't get into now, but more of an ability. Because, when things are obvious, there's no great challenge recognizing it. And so, okay, who won't rise and shine when it's a sunny day? But when it's pouring rain and lightning and thunder outside, who rises up then? And I'm not talking physically, obviously. I'm talking metaphorically. In our mental state, when we go through difficulties. So these difficulties, this suffering, can be our greatest time to shine. Even, God forbid, in health matters. Because it can help us strengthen the good, which we need. We need our immune system. We need the good stuff. It's about changing the consciousness. And very often when people shift their consciousness, their health changes as well. Again, we can't judge, but it certainly is, the pathway to more blessing and more good in anything in our life. More abundance, more of whatever it is, the higher level of wherever it is that we need to go, which is why it comes to us as a great opportunity in the first place. Be blessed, everyone. Be blessed. Remember, please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching my channel. Go to RabbiAbe.com if you want to schedule with me or for whatever else is there. Check out my new website and see if maybe you can proofread it and see if there are any mistakes over there. Let me know if you like it or not. The colors and everything, it's brand new. If you haven't seen it yet, RabbiAbe.com. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you very soon on the next video. Lunar Gemini is coming up Sunday, so we're going to do our best to get a video out on that early Sunday. God bless.